Howdy, howdy, y'alls. Since I have a break in my practicing, um, I'm giving myself a break. So, when I was a kid, I grew up on the East Bench of Salt Lake City, down in an area called Cottonwood Heights, and for 10 years I stayed in one spot. So, um, up in that area, it the there wasn't anybody from anywhere. I mean, there was a couple of families with names that were not classically English American. English meaning UK English, nationality, whatever. And so, I mean, we had the Shimizu family, and we had one African kid at my high school, and we had a Korean girl and a couple Navajos. So that's about it. But everybody spoke standard English, and they were completely Americanized. And in Utah back then, along the East Bench of Salt Lake City, everybody spoke what I consider um, American received English. And the reason why I developed this kind of term with American received English is because when I moved to Southern California, the English that I spoke and the pace that I spoke at, everybody from every other country that I encountered in Southern California could understand me, and they knew what I was saying, and there wasn't any confusion, or nobody had to ask me any questions twice. So it was kind of isolated up in Utah. And yes, of course, I was brought up in the LDS church, and it wasn't a bad thing, because me being who I was when I was a kid, I wasn't always a conformist. I wasn't a rebel. I just wasn't a conformist, and I never went through a lot of the stuff that a lot of people complain about the Mormon Church. So, but anyway, that's not what my conversation's about. So, because of the kind of kid I was, I had lots of jobs, which is normal for, I guess, me being the only boy in a single parent household. So I had a lot of leeway. I had 6 sisters, and I was the only boy. So the emphasis was on the girls and not on me. So anyway, I'm not jealous. I don't care. When we eventually moved to Southern California, I hated it. Because when I first moved to Southern California, I had a 1971 Chevelle that I had built. I blew up the engine racing a Corvette, and so I ended up with a small block 400 in it. Some of you guys aren't going to be car people, so you're not going to understand. But I changed the whole personality of the car, and I put a set of headers on it, big tires, nice rims, and it was cinnamon brown with a black interior. It didn't have air conditioning and everything like this. This car was kind of like my baby. So we moved to Southern California, and the first thing this is part of the reason why I hate California. The first thing is when they discovered, because I registered at a junior college at Orange Coast College, California discovered that I was in the state, and they discovered that I didn't have my car registered in the state. Well, I was only 20 or 21, and no prospects. Terrible work history, da-da-da-da-da. So, California started sending me all these nasty letters about getting my car smogged and this, that, and the other. And then, I didn't have any money to register the car. And so, eventually, they sent me a letter threatening to throw me in jail because of the smog on my car. Okay, so I'm not happy with the state of California. And I wasn't happy with the state of California for a long time, and I hated this state. But it's not because of it's the laws in the state of California, because I was forced to sell my car because I couldn't register it. And I was trying to be honest with, you know, trying to get it done. Well, I ended up having to sell a car. I kept the rims and tires from the car because those were a set of rims and tires. If you're a hot rodder, you understand. If you're not a hot rodder, you're like, that's stupid. But I kept the rims and tires because I had M50 15s on the back and 235 60 14s in the front, and the magnesium 5-slot rims. And those were mine. I'm not going to sell those. So I sold the car for, I think, $600 or $800, and the kid that bought it was driving it in 2 weeks because he had connections, so he could get his car registered. So here's the thing. When you from my perspective, when you overregulate the system, people train themselves on how to get around the system, you know, and it ends up being the people that can help each other outside of the system will help each other so that there's an appearance of compliance. That's called corruption, in my opinion. So anyway, that's okay with California. I lost my car. But my experience, that didn't destroy my experience in Southern California. So I ended up getting a job at a bowling alley. This is my first exposure to intercultural experience in Southern California. I worked at a bowling alley. Well, on Friday nights, part of my job was setting up a synagogue for a Jewish congregation. And that was pretty cool. I got to know those guys pretty well. And they didn't have anything against anybody that wasn't Jewish. And I didn't know it, but at the time, some neo-Nazi types got into their stuff where we kept the storage for the synagogue, and they tore up a lot of stuff, and they broke the Star of David, and I wasn't thinking anything of it. I wasn't doing anything. I had no intentions or anything, but the Star of David was broken, and I know what it is. So I grabbed some duct tape and I fixed it, and the rabbi, he's a young guy. I don't know, he was about my age, but he's a young guy to be a rabbi to me because I'm kind of ignorant of the Jewish religion. So he looked at me, he said, "You fixed the star." And the way he said it was way more important to him than it was to me. Not because it's not important to me, it's because I don't understand, because I'm culturally illiterate at this time in Southern California. So I screwed that relationship up, because when they had their first boy, they invited me to come over for his first blessing or something like that. And I'm not dismissing it, it's just I don't know. And I chickened out and I didn't show up. So I kind of screwed that up. But the other thing was, on Fridays, I would set up a Greek Orthodox church at the bowling alley in the same spot. So they were not communicative at all. There was nothing. I set it up. They say, "Thank you again. Bye." So anyway, another cool thing about working at the bowling alley was I had a bowling average of 235. And somebody said, "You could go pro." And I'm like, need a sponsor? I mean, the pro shop. Okay, the benefits of working at a bowling alley is somebody abandons a bowling ball. After a couple months, you can take it. So I had 3 different balls. The pro shop guy, he liked me. For whatever reason, I'd ask him if he'd do something on the ball. He'd never charge me. So I had a finger grip ball. I had a dry lane ball. I had another one for wet floors. And I don't know if I was any good, but 235 apparently is pretty good, because I never really got into the culture. I could practice bowling every day at lunchtime when you didn't have the regular people come in. So after that while, I finished out a year of residency in the state of California, and I ended up going to Orange Coast College. And in the meantime, I had developed a crush and a thing for Vietnamese girls. Well, Southeast Asian girls, I'll put it that way. Vietnamese, Cambodian, Filipinas. And I'd never been exposed to anybody who was different in Utah. So that was the beginning of my cultural understanding and expansion. So while I was in California, I went to college at Orange Coast College, and at the same time I was teaching myself Vietnamese, and because Vietnamese girls trying to do your thing, and so most of them were pretty nice, and I screwed up a couple times because I don't understand them culturally. There's some girls, well, it's called playing the game. I didn't realize I was playing the game. And then when I didn't play it right at certain steps, okay, it got screwed up. So anyway, I had a couple crushes on a couple of girls for a couple of years, which wasn't any different than high school. So I was going to junior college at Orange Coast College, and then for the Vietnamese, I was going to Santa Ana College, and then I found out I could get my high school diploma, a real high school diploma, at through Rancho Santiago College. So I did that. I got all the way almost to my associate's degree, except for the math part, which I don't know if I can still do it because it's been so long. But all I need to do is finish the math, and I get my associate's degree. Now, I guess they would call it liberal arts, but I call it intercultural communication because I was learning Vietnamese, I was learning all these other cultures and everything else. I was just soaking everything up like a sponge. And this is for a kid that basically dropped out in high school. So, I did that, and then I still couldn't get a decent job. I was doing a lot of retail and stuff like that. And I don't care what somebody's machine code is. Or binary or whatever. I personally don't care. I'm not offended. I'm heterosexual, but that doesn't mean I have an opinion about everybody else's position on their worldview. Fortunately, growing up ignorant in the East Coast, East Bench of Utah, the people there were liberal enough in their attitudes that they wouldn't engender an attitude towards other people. So I was basically neutral. So anyway, I started working at the South Coast Plaza at a place called the Nature Company, and that was kind of a cliquish thing because I didn't fit in because I wasn't binary or machine code or whatever. And then I worked at the Metropolitan Museum of Art Shop, which was really cool. Both the Nature Company and the Metropolitan Museum of Art Shop, they had all these really cool books and stuff like that, and I'm a reader. I could take them home and read them for free. And at one time I was living with a Vietnamese family, and there was a kid who was like 12 years old, and I had brought a paleontology. It was a big, thick book about, I can't see myself, about that thick, a paleontology. And there was this Vietnamese kid who was like 10 or 12 years old that was living at the same house that I was living. I was living in the laundry room on a bed with a box for everything that I owned, and they let me use their car because I was carless at the time. So I had this paleontology book, and I was with the Nature Company at the time, and well, this kid goes totally fascinated by this paleontology book. He'd never seen anything like it. He'd never been exposed to anything like it. And so I asked my boss, I said, can I just give it to him? And he's like, no problem. Wrote it off. So there's this kid out there who was 10 or 12 years old that I might have changed the direction of life. Maybe he's some kind of famous paleontologist now. But anyway, California, I did all that stuff, and I still couldn't get a job. And so I went to the Lincoln Education Center, and for free, I got a general office clerk certificate. And basically, that was the class where I took things the least serious. There was a lot of cute girls there, so I would just goof around mostly, because I used to build my own computers, and I know how to type and all that stuff, and use, DOS 6, Windows 3, Windows 3.1, 95, Windows 95, Windows 98, and then I skipped all the way to XP, because all the others were kind of junk, and I heard all the stuff, so I stuck with Windows 98 for a long time, until support ended for it. And and Windows XP. XP was pretty good until they stopped support for it. So anyway, I got this general office clerk certificate, and got the hiccups. I started doing a whole bunch of temp work, and there was 3 different temp agencies that I would work for, and I would tell them I can't work. Well, the thing is, growing up in Utah, you had this work ethic where I did a lot of heavy labor when I was I don't know, between 12 and 16 years old. So I was doing construction and, digging ditches and concrete and all that kind of stuff. And back then, in the 80s, you could get away with doing this kind of stuff. So, here I am. I wanted to be in corporate. I wanted to do that kind of stuff, because I thought then that's where the money was. So I started working with all these temp agencies, and I worked for a company called Uline. I worked for Taco Bell Corporate, which was pretty cool. I worked for PepsiCo, which was pretty cool. And there was a bunch of other little rinky-dink stuff that was all down on the coast, down by Fashion Island. And what I didn't know was that nobody explained this to me, that the temp agency has a contract with the place that I'm working at that I didn't know about. Nobody explained any of this to me. So here I am thinking, the harder I work, the more likely I'm going to get a job with these people that I'm temping with. Well, that wasn't the case. What it was is I was working so hard, I was finishing before the contract was done. And so the temp agencies were losing money on me because I was finishing all the projects, but I wasn't getting hired. If somebody would have said, hey, you need to kick back and relax so that you can finish out the time that you work, because we're not making money off you. And nobody said that to me. So, there was a couple of jobs that are extremely memorable. I might do a story about those, each one individually. But, so, I don't know why they did this, but they assigned me a job doing clerical work at a gynecology office. And that was supposed to be like 2 months. And so I go in, and it's all women. I'm the only boy, or guy, person, man. And then, there's this girl who's half Caucasian and half Vietnamese, but she's Vietnamese. She came from Vietnam because she was half something or other, and she was gorgeous, honey blonde hair, amber skin, and gray eyes. I instant crush. So I could barely talk to her. And here I am working in a gynecologist's office. I'm like, so I work there. Well, looks like the beer truck's here for the shop. Not my shop, the place over there. So anyway, here I am working in his gynecologist's office with this gorgeous girl who has no interest in me, and I'm trying to be proper and not show that I got the hots for her. And finally, after 2 or 3 days, I finally called up the temp agency. I was like, do you know where I'm working? You know? And because I'm a reader, I could read these files and I understand everything. I can read everything. I understand all the doctor terms and this, that, and the other. I'm supposed to be filing this stuff, but, you know, once... And they would ask me to go get a file. I go grab it. And it's all women. I'm the only guy. Why'd they do this? So finally that ended. Just crazy. So at one time I was working 3 or 4 different temp jobs. I worked for UPS in their tracer center, which wasn't fun because the management there at that time, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with UPS, but the way they managed temps was their basic job was to do everything they could to get rid of you. I don't know why it was that way. So, but we got to do a tour of the Anaheim sorting depot where they distributed the stuff from UPS, and that was pretty cool. And I actually met a Vietnamese friend of mine from college there who is, just because of who he is and the way he is and his enthusiasm for stuff, and he was happy to be in America because he was a first wave immigrant from Vietnam. I'm sure he's business executive now, just by his own right. I don't know if he went to college or university or anything, but he had that kind of personality where he can succeed at everything. And he chose me for a friend in college, so I have no complaints on that. I wish I still knew him. He had a thing for Japanese girls, and he went to Japan and found a Japanese girl that liked Vietnamese guys, and they got married. And I'm sure they have a bunch of puppies now. So anyway, you know, the good and the bad of Southern California, I benefited a lot. I hated California when I first moved there because, you know, the state was cracking down on me, and I felt completely defenseless. So finally, man, you know, I started working and working hard and doing everything and developed some skills. I got my commercial driver's license, and that's been the biggest benefit to me. I haven't used anything from college, and from working in the office environment, corporate environment, I've done call centers and stuff like that, and call centers are fine, but trying to go up further in corporate, that's not my thing, because I'm the least political person I know. And it's not a matter of tact or anything like that. It's just literally being clueless on how to get ahead. And growing up in Utah, you have a kind of a stronger sense of ethics, personal ethics, and you don't sabotage other people. And you know, and you don't really realize it when you're being sabotaged, when you don't know how to play politics. So anyway, that's my ramble. California was good and bad for me. I got out of there in 2012 before everything tipped over the edge. So I could see that coming. So I went to Kentucky. Anyway, thanks for listening to my ramble. California used to be an awesome place, you know. I hope it gets fixed, because, you know, I benefited a lot from California, but the people who helped me and the people contacts and friends and everything like that, we've all, you know, that's just normal stuff. When you're not from an area. My family's here in Utah. We barely talk to each other, but that's okay. We still know we're there. Thanks for watching. You know, it's not as bad as it seems. Well, not yet. We'll see. Have a good day. Bye.